This principle the Rebbe is explaining, how is it that we see clearly that the distinction between Re'iyah and Shmiyah is a very fundamental, that because Re'iyah relates and is teifus, it can only observe and recognize the mehus or atzmis of something, and Shmiyah can only take the mitzius. And we are going to, okay, at the end of the top line on page Memalef, which already started, but we'll, as usual, we are stepping back a bit. V'zehu ma shehakoiches ha'elu. V'zehu, this point that we made, that Re'iyah is teifes the mehus, and Shmiyah is teifes only the mitzius. That explains the fact, ma shehakoiches ha'elu, the fact that these koiches shaboyim bekelim shalahem, when they are, they step into, so to speak, when they're brought into their kelim, into the kelim shalahem, their kelim. Re'iyah has its kelim, and Shmiyah has its kelim. Now, no. Let us discuss now. We have to go into, so to speak, in the essence of Re'iyah, the experience of Re'iyah and the experience of Shmiyah. Re'iyah, when you observe something, this observation, the reality of the observation does not come to you via the fact that you can decipher and take it apart into bits through which you can grasp it. Like we said many times, how do you grasp something? And you want to pick up a table, you have to go to its edge, find its boundary, its limit, and from there you can pick it up. You can't pick it up from the essence, from the tabletop. That we already discussed many times. And that is a primary difference between Shmiyah and Re'iyah. Shmiyah grasps things by their borders, how they are presented. Which means, a border means here is where it is not, and here is where it is. And you see the contrast where it is not and where it is. Re'iyah does not go through that process. Re'iyah actually sees the thing directly. There's no problem inside to see and to observe the tabletop. And it makes, you're not losing anything. You grasp the whole thing. This Inyan that the Re'iyah can relate to the reality is essentially due to the Inyan that let me step back again. Where does reality come from to the human thought, human mind? Is this something that has to be convincing, has to be proven?
No.
It doesn't have to be proven. Reality is something which is inherent in the soul that the Rebbe gave it. Because the neshama is real, the neshama is it represents real, mamash, chayas mamash, chayas eliki, and this is how he relates to reality. So the principle of reality, the principle of Re'iyah, that you do not need proof of the truth. This is something which you know. Like the Rambam says, the first principle is to know that the first being. How do you know first being? Prove to me that I don't need first being. This is a primary knowledge in the human soul. Doesn't go through a process. This is inherent in our thinking. The minute we are born, the minute we wake up, we know that there is a reality, and we just know it. The knowing of it is secondary to our recognizing it, to our experiencing it. We don't recognize it because we know it. We know it because we recognize it. This is the essence of the koyach of Riyah and Shmiyah. Then these koyachs, when they're further drawn down, and they're boying bekelim shalahem, they come. We are in the second line on page 111. Sheboyim bekelim shalahem. When these koyachs come into their kelim. Kelim, what is a keli? A keli is a means by which you relate, like in this case, a koyach to the outside. That's what a keli is. A means by which you can transmit an intangible inyan to a tangible world. And that, of course, there are many different levels. I mean, I said before, water has a keli. Water is a tangible thing, but drinking water is not a mitzvah until it goes into a keli.
This now we mentioned outside, so it's like sight is projecting onto the outside, or sight is receiving information from the outside.
No. Okay. Sight is not drawing information from the outside. Sight is bringing its impact on the outside.
As if projecting, as if defining what the outside is.
That's all the koyach are nefesh. That's what nefesh is. Nefesh is the truth, and then it has to bring its truth to bear on the world. So the kelim, these koyachs of the Ayin Shmiyah, the Ayin Shmiyah, we have to focus in a little bit on a more subtle thing. The Ayin Shmiyah, we know the ear because it's light and we see it, and Shmiyah, and something disturbs our ear, we hear. But that is not the essence of those koyachs. As a matter of fact, there is a common expression when you explain something to someone. You make a point. So he says, "I hear you." What does it mean? I hear you.
I understand.
Huh?
I understand.
What does it mean? See, I understand. I hear you. In other words, I have a means by which you can grasp your idea and hold on to it. Now, what hearing is a nefesh element. It's not just the fact of hearing that something makes noise and disturbs your ear. The ear is at the bottom of the totem pole of the koyach HaShmiyah.
Speaking of which, did you want to answer Kedusha?
Huh?
I'm
sorry?
Did you want to answer Kedusha?
No, I heard Kedusha. Thank you. I had a multi-wrong morning. So the Ayin Shmiyah koyachs are nefesh. They are not just external experiences. The external experiences of the Ayin Shmiyah, everybody knows what that is. This is when the koyach comes into its keli. I want to point this out. We should begin to be able to think about this. The one principle that we always point out, when you hear a sound, or you hear somebody explaining anything, right now it's quiet. All of a sudden you hear him explain something. Is that come to you as something out of this world? What's going on? Where is this? What's this about? It makes perfect good sense. you relate to it with your whole reality. Yeah, I could see somebody's talking, I can hear what he's saying. Not only I can hear what he's saying, that he's saying, but I can hear, he's giving me the idea over and I can understand it. It makes perfect good sense. This thing that makes perfect good sense, that people can communicate via speech, for example, which is what speech and hearing, is something which we can readily relate to. The reason we can readily relate to is not because we experienced it already, it was proven to us, but because we in essence can relate to it. The Horaya, an infant, when the infant wants his mommy, what does it do? It screams. What are you screaming? What's that about? This is how it so to speak is internally recognized. So we in Shmiya, at the level where we identify with it, I see and I hear, this is already when these koyachs are in kelim. If it were only a keli but not the koyach, then we would feel uncomfortable, we'd be out of place with it.
It would feel out of place if it was not specific to one organ?
No.
To one keli?
No. If it's not something that we can relate to that idea internally. Do we relate to this?
I'm not sure on this last point here, that it would feel
I explained many times that all the functional koyachs, everything that we experience and externally, is not something that is an add-on to who we are. Yes, we see it, we experience, but that is not the basis for us being able to relate to it, because we experience it, but because we have inherently that quality. We understand what Shmi is. We understand what Dibur is.
Then when it is in actuality, we relate to the details.
In actuality, this is when this inyan, this koyach is in a keli.
Right.
And that's, I went off to the side a little bit, and I'm going to re-emphasize it. Where can we see clearly, tangibly, that this is only the koyach in the keli, this is not the essence of the koyach. This is not where the koyach begins. We see it from the fact that when we hear it, it's not taking us off balance. It's not something that's completely out of this world new. We relate to it. It makes perfect good sense that someone can speak and I can hear what he's saying. Not only I can hear and I can understand, we can communicate.
I'm missing the point of this. What is the point that you can understand it and relate? It doesn't come as a shock to you?
The point is to explain the words in the Maimer. When the Maimer says that the koyches of Ri and Shmiya, then ultimately the koboyim bekelim shalahem, they come into their kelim. So I wanted to that we should understand and distinguish and recognize the koyach as it is in essence, and the koyach where it is in the kelim. Our first thought is of the koyach as it is in the kelim, because this is what we see externally, this is what we experience. but this explains to us, you should know all these koyches, they are inherent koyches in the nefesh. These are not koyches that are developed by practice. Koyches that are developed by practice are robotic. you can't really relate to it. The koiches hanefesh, koiches ha'odom, when a person communicates via speech, it is a nefesh communication. It is not a guf level communication. But these koiches, as it are nefesh, they can further be mislabish b'kelim shalahem. They can be mislabish in their kelim. What does it mean in b'kelim shalahem? As I said before, the meaning from kelim in general, kelim is to take something which is a nefesh level, which is superior to the mitzvahs of the world, and in order to bring it to bear on the world on a functional level, you have to put it into a keli. Without a keli, you can't affect it. For example, we say it all the time. On the rotten level, the person is where he wants to be. But in order for him to actually be there at the koiches level, where he can be in the place where he is and touch something and take something, in order to, then you have to put the rotzen into keli. You have to go through a seichel and to midas and go into the koiches into the feet, and you have to transport yourself to that place, and then you can be there. You can't do it there automatically. This is the koiches come b'kelim shalahem. What? Shalahem, there. Their kelim. Now it's specific to them. But I went back to point out, and I do this all the time, that we should recognize that when we experience a koyach, any experience, this is what the human being, the dog lahabdul does not have that. When you talk to the dog and you obeys it, it is not that he understands what it means to talk and observe a command. He only knows that he was trained to, when you do this, you do this. And if you don't do it, you get it over your head. That's how you got trained. A human being is not trained. A human being learns. Why? Because he understands. He relates to this. And the proof to that is, this is my point is all the time, that when we do act according to whatever design of action it is, we relate to it not only because it's the right thing to do, but because we personally can relate to it. We have discussed it very broadly in different things, but this is in here the Ayin Shmiya is the same thing. The Ayin Shmiya, when we see, oh wow, what is this? How do I can relate to the fact that I can see. Why? Because it's real, and I know that there is a reality. Before I open my eyes, how do I know there's a reality? Because I know there's a motivation, there's a truth. Like we said many times, you could observe things through a window into the room. You're observing it. But when you are inside the room, you're also aware of everything that's in the room. How are you aware then? You don't see it. When you're in the room, you can only see one wall. You can't see the whole thing that you see from outside. You know it not by observation, not by any kind of functional method. You are inside the room and you're part of the reality of the room. Then you know everything much more real than even in observation. And if observation were only at the observation level and no reality, then you're missing something. If you have an artist's rendition of a room and he presents it to you like real, let's project. You have a picture of a room, of a house, whatever, anything, and it's like real. And then you go and you actually find the room itself when you enter the room. Is there a difference? You say, no, I already experienced it. No, being in the room doesn't change anything. Of course it does. Because when you are observing it, even in a very well presented piece of art, it is only observation. It is you can't project at this. You can't project the reality of this one. Because you cannot bring life to it, real to it. You can only present it as it appears. Whereas inside, this is the reality itself. Only the Eibusher can create this reality. An artist can only create its appearance, what it looks like.
The mehus.
To me,
The mehus.
yeah, the mehus is the other can present the mitzias. As the mehus is expressing mitzias, but he doesn't give you the sense of mitzias. This is the meaning of these words. When these koiches come into their keli. This is when the koyach is drawn down further to a functional level. And in order to be in a functional level, how the koyach should express itself in the outside world, he has to have a keli. Without a keli, like we said, Hashem said, the whole world is my platform. It's real. I am wherever I want to be in the world, I am. But that's not, for practical purposes, that's not enough. So when we actually see physically, this is the koyach ha-seichel, the koyach ha-re'iyah, in a keli. And this is the koyach ha-shmiyah in a keli. And the Rebbe is explaining, what is the koyach ha-re'iyah? As distinct from the koyach ha-shmiyah. The koyach ha-re'iyah, in essence, is the awareness and the knowledge and the relating to the mehus, to the etzem mehus. The koyach ha-shmiyah, in essence, is to relate to the mitzias adav. This is in essence. When the boyim bekelim shalahem, when they come into their kelim, hariyah toifeses the vagashmi dafka. The riyah relates exclusively to davar gashmi. We'll come back. We already discussed it in Friday. We'll come back to it. Dafka davar gashmi. You cannot see anything but gashmi. Ushmiya davar ruchni. On the other hand, shmiya relates to davar ruchni, to something that is not visible, like sound, words, and particularly the content of the words and the how it's presented in the sentence, the nuance, they sing song. This is what Shmi relates to. Shazahu, where this distinction, this difference is lefi mehus ha'atzmi shalahem. It is according to the mehus ha'atzmis. Now let's think about this. Mehus ha'atzmis means the essential reality. The reason that Maria relates to Dova Gashmi is not because otherwise he cannot see, therefore he has to be Dova Gashmi. Please understand what the Rabbi is saying. It's not because otherwise he can't see, but because this is what I relate to. This is what I feel comfortable. This is what's real to me.
Can you rephrase that maybe?
No, I can't. Who's asked me? This is the suit, so to speak. The very mahus, what the ear stands for. The ear means I see it, and I don't have to be convinced that it's there. I have to make sense of what I see. I see it, and I see it not because I'm being convinced. I'm being proven to me. I see it because I see what its truth is. That's what I see.
Not because of what?
This is the expression when people discuss adob aseichel. Sometimes they say, I hear you. Sometimes they say, I see. What's the difference? I hear you. I hear your arguments. I hear your point. You're trying to convince me of something. I hear what you're trying to convince me. I see. This is. You don't have to convince anymore. I see it. And therefore, the fact that the ear is tefas dover gashmi and shmi is tefas dover ruchni is lefi mehus ha'atzmis. This is representative, and it is due to their mehus ha'atzmis what they are in their essence. Let's try to put this into some kind of a format. It means the following. I hear, and I can hear, so to speak, what's being explained and so forth. It makes sense. And I see what it says. The reason I can see and the reason I can hear is due to the fact that deep down in my nefesh, I know that such thing as reality exists and such thing as presentation exists. That mahus exists and Metzias exists. This is the mahus ha'atzmi of these koiches. There is a tzipa medaberes. Everybody knows what tzipa medaberes is, right?
A bird that talks?
Huh?
A bird that talks?
That talks, right? And yet, we don't categorize this tzipa as a medaber. Why not? It's medaberes.
Doesn't talk.
Huh?
Doesn't talk. It's function. It functions.
Okay.
It copies, imitates.
Okay. What I want is that we should. I know that everybody can explain it, but I want that we should understand the significance of it.
It's like a camera.
The human being is medaber. Before he utters his words, he already he knows that he can produce that message. He speaks to it because he's producing a message, not because he's able to speak the sounds.
He knows beforehand what he's going to say.
He knows before that by saying something I can transmit a thought. That's what he knows.
And the bird
The word doesn't relate to that at all.
just acts on the moment.
It mimics the sound. That's all. That's why a human being is called a medabe. Medabe means that he can take the deepest principles of his own life and transform them to the point where he can actually speak of them. It takes a whole process. And no other creature can do that. Only a human being.
How do they communicate?
Why is a human being able to do this?
What's so bad?
Let's think together. Why is a human being able to do this?
Everything inside is wrong, we leave and go away.
It is due to the fact that to the human being, okay, here is the most important principle. I hope I will say it clear enough to understand. The animal sees a table, it sees something that's there. It sees it at the point where it is actually experiencing and observing it. Not the human being. Human being sees everything from its inception. If there is a house, then this house has been conceptualized before it was built. And it, in concept, it has been designed and the purpose for its building built. That's what he had observed. That's what he relates to. In other words, to him, the outside world is also a reality, not only what he experiences. It's also a reality. Why is it a reality? Why is it a reality? Because the reason the world is real to him is because there is a creator. If not for the fact there is a creator, there would be no real world. The world is real to him not because he sees the world, but because there's a creator for the world. There's motivation. This is what the human being is. He knows things from his intellectual level. And the intellect dictates that there has to be a creator. This is not a true presence. A true presence is an inherent truth. This is why the human being can project to communicate in the outside world, because the outside world is also real to him. So in the deepest crevices of his nefesh, he says, "Oh, I am going to explain myself. What I have in the deepest. Where are you going to explain it to that world which I have also a recognition and cognizance of." And that's why I'm going to be able to explain. All right. So therefore, the koyach re'iyah and shmiyah ultimately go b'kelim shalahem. They're going to their kelim. Kelim means they're going to that means in that vessel which will enable them to function and to express themselves in a different realm, in a different world than in their nefesh, in their keiches and nefesh. What is when it comes to the keiches, so the ear is tefes davagashmi ga'adavke. So, okay, let's start From the third line, Ruchni. Shmiya Tevis Ruchni. Shazehu Lefi Mehusam Atma Shalahem. This distinction is according to mehusam Atma, so their essential mahus, their essential reality. This is not because you cannot see words, so they have to see the Gashmi. Please understand what this means. You see Gashmi not because you cannot see words, you have to resort to Gashmi. No, because when you see Gashmi, it makes sense. It's real. Gashmi is not superimposed on my sight. I'm forced to see it because I can't turn away. I'm afraid to turn away because there's a Gashmi. I see a Gashmi because it makes sense to me that I can really relate to this reality.
Everyone who does tshuva, they're inspired by
Shari'iyya toifis mehus hadava. Because that, in what is mehus hadava? That Riyya is toifis mehus hadava. Riyya grasps, which means it relates to, it recognizes the mehus hadava, the reality of the thing. Al king toifis over Gashmi. That's why it is toifis over Gashmi. Lihiyois, being that, shebazahu tfisas hamahus. Being that bazer, that in this Gashmi, this is where you have tfisas hamahus, the grasp of the mahus, of the reality. Anything beyond the Gashmi is not the mahus itself. Okay. When you have, for example, a table has a certain form. Yeah, it has a certain form, it makes sense of it, so forth. But this form is something which was put into the mehusam Gashmi. The Gashmi, the wood, was used to produce this form. And this wood can be in many other forms. It's not a real form. It's a means to produce this form. But the reason that we're producing this form in Gashmis, in wood, not on a drawing, because the drawing will also only give you the ruchni of the table, not the reality. You can't sit down and eat by a table that is on a drawing, in a picture. In other words, this table has to be a presence in the parameters of the world. That is when it is a mehus. This is the mehus hadava. Maybe she gave us a Torah. And in the Torah, starting from Monech Hashem L'kecha Asher Tzitzicha Me'eretz Mitzrayim, and all kinds of different mitzvahs. All of the mitzvahs and all the whole presentation of the Torah is to represent the godly reality as it is represented in a worldly, in the materials of the world. This is when you take first mehusam. In other words, like we say all the time, the halacha is, if you mechaven Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, if you have the best kavanah, so you're not yotze the mitzvah of Shema Yisrael, You say the words, why? What's the difference? Not why. Why this is the mehusam. What's the difference? The difference is that when you mechaven, it doesn't exist in the world, it exists in your nefesh. The meaning of mitzvahs is to bring it into kelim, into the world itself. And in the world itself, it has to be in something gashmi. This and in that stage, and the kelim for that is deeper. It's an interesting thing. We live in the world, and we're always challenged. People ask questions. We have to talk to people and convince them and so forth. It is infinitely easier to contemplate the godly truth than to express it in words. Words, say it. I have to make sense. I'm not a robot. I have to be able to relate to these words. Because this is where I'm creating the reality of it. I say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. I'm creating its reality. And that is a real challenge. It's a real avoidance. To think about it, I'm thinking about it at the place of its own truth, not in the world. So I don't have to recreate.
So I'm bringing this truth in the world.
Yeah. This is that you bring it mamish in a mahus. And this is the okay. So the is tfisa is teufels mahus, ushmiya teufels davar ruchni. Shmiya is teufels davar ruchni. This is mitzad, I said mitzad, the essence of the koyach of re'iyah, and koyach, the essence of the koyach hashmiya. What is the essence of koyach re'iyah? Essence of koyach re'iyah. Koyach hashmiya means how the nefesh already contemplates that it is possible to see and it's possible to hear. We learn, you find out about the sound of speech or the appearance of an object, not when we see it. This is something that is inherent in nefesh order. Because if it were first experience, when we first see it, and we don't have a basis for it in nefesh order, we'll be totally uncomfortable, out of place. In the world. We were acting in a strange place. And constantly being disturbed. Hey, something is happening. So the keli for the ear. This is okay. Let's go back to the man. The keli for the ear is davar gashmi. The keli for shmir is davar ruchni. Why is the keli for the is davar gashmi? Because this is where you teufels the mehusam. So this we discussed the other day. Again, how do you define mehusam dover? Mehusam dover means the reality of its existence, of its presence. What's the difference between a table in a perfect picture and a table on the floor? The difference is that the table in the picture begins, the whole material begins from it being a table. The reason I'm seeing it is because it's a table. A table on the floor doesn't begin from being a table. A table on the floor is a piece of wood. Something a mitzvah in the world. That only the world knows why it's there. So I now want to render a table in the world. I take something from the world that belongs to the world, and I give it a form that form of a table, and it always remains belonging to the world. Doesn't belong to the table. What's with the mehus? It has a sense of reality. It really is a presence in the world. To be a presence in the world, it has to be a presence from the world's perspective, not from your perspective. That's when I have rendered it. If I have you with me, I'm going to take it one.
That's
just
when
one
you
more
have
notch.
rendered.
That's when you have rendered. Now you have brought it out. Okay, we understand it, right?
You recognize the reality. Is that?
I don't recognize the reality of your question. Where are you coming from? What are you trying to say? No. If you want to have a real table, what are you going to do? Draw a picture? Or take a piece of wood? What does the wood have to do with the table? First you have to build it. The table is in your mind already. What's the answer? I want to render, I want to present the table to the world. How do I present it to the world? So I have to go to the world and say, give me something that's real to you. And then I'm going to use that and give you a table. It's very similar to a different level of a mashal. What's a mashal? I'm going to give you an idea, but you don't know anything about the idea. So I said, okay, give me something that you are in contact with, that you know clearly. And I'm going to go into that Metzias, and I'm going to show you how this Metzias has certain aspects that represent the thought that I'm going to present to you.
How is this distinct from what we find at the functional level? We react to it and go according to that. And it's not that. It seems very similar.
I know. Again,
it means it seems similar to everything occurring at the experiential level, that you're just reacting to what's in front of you, and you're doing as things are presented to you, you react
I
to them.
understand. I don't understand what you're saying. Let me ask you this. This table is a make-believe table or it's a real table? Did you see toy tables?
Mhm.
What's the difference between this table and toy table?
It's size. Maybe.
Size, that's all?
And perhaps the intent for what it was.
What?
And the intent for what it was.
What's the
used.
difference in the intent? It's a table. In order to identify the toy table as a table, you have to be a kid.
His level.
It's a make-believe table. It's not a real thing in the world. In your mind, it's a table. It's a table as it is in your mind. This table is a table in the world. So please explain to me what you're trying to ask.
Simply, it's pencil.
Huh?
I tried to. I didn't get it. It's like, it's okay, go on.
Okay.
The toy table is a table for the kids, right?
The toy table, the toy table is not a real table. It's an imaginary table. Kids don't need a real table. Kids are playing with it. It's a toy. It's a table to play with,
So the kid can
not a table to sit at and eat.
You're not talking about an actual table that is made for children that are smaller. You're talking about a little
No.
A
figure,
toy
a
table.
menchie
You-
table.
in some houses, you have a whole house set up
Oh, okay.
with kitchens, with stoves, and the kids play with it. Play home.
Okay. I
Play
thought
house.
you were-
You thought you were talking. I know. You thought you were talking about just a smaller table. That kids.
What?
There are kids' tables that are actual real tables, but they're smaller for kids.
No, I'm talking about toy tables. They're true only on the toy level.
What's our what are we driving at? The point being that from the
We're trying
world,
to
from the
understand-
material of the world, we make
We're
what's
trying to understand these words. Okay, we never run too far away. ראי הטויפס דבר גשמי דווקא, שמיע דבר רוחני, שזה לפי מehusam עצמי שלהם. This difference is due to the mehusam עצמי שלהם, their essential reality. שראי הטויפס mehusam דבר, what is the mehusam עצמי שלהם? ראי הטויפס mehusam דבר, על כן טויפס דבר גשמי. And we ought to try to understand what the Rebbe is explaining to us. The Ri is Teufels Mehusam Dover, and that's why it's Teufels over Gashmi. How's it Teufels over Gashmi? Gashmi, the wood and the table are not the same thing. The wood is only the material from which I make a table, but I want to make a table. And yet this is the Mehus. This is the Mehus of a table. Why is it Mehus of a table? Why is it the Mehus of a table?
because it's a physical table. It's anything in the world has to be grasped within its base and physical thing. If it's worldly.
It is a Mehus of a table. Please follow this. What is the Mehus of a table? You should look at a table, you should be able to imagine a table, or you should actually be able to use it as a table.
Use it.
What is the Mehus of a table?
Actually be.
Not actually be usable, and use it.
Function as well.
That's the Mehus of a table. Where does it acquire that mahus? In Gashmias. You can only use it on a table when you render it into Gashmias. Why?
What do you want? That is the only possibility.
It's going to be used by man.
What's behind it?
It's going to be used by man. And that dignified.
In order to use it in Gashmias, it has to be real from the perspective of the world, not from your perspective. Please understand what it is. We lose sight. We can imagine, we can project. That's not using it in the world. That's not being in the world. Imagine the following. Here we have a table, we have the tabletop. Let's say we take the legs off, and we take the tabletop and we lay it across our laps, and we use the table. It's also usable as a table. Is that a table?
No.
Why is it not a table?
It's not a
I'm using it.
standalone.
Huh?
It's not a standalone entity.
That's right. A table means that it stands alone. Where can it stand alone? In the world. From the world perspective, the world has given you the opportunity to give it a table. That's when it becomes a mahus. As long as you're holding it up in your lap, it's not a mahus of a table. It only has the function of a table. You won't go to Macy's to buy a tabletop, and they tell you, it's a beautiful tabletop. All you have to do is just hold it up. Yes, sir.
This is a very important statement. Shari Tonfus Mehus Davar Al-Kain Tonfus Davar Gashmi. You read it 3 times, but you didn't translate it. I think I would understand better if you translated it literally. Shari Tonfus.
Riyah is toifes. It grasps, which means it relates to Mehus Hadavar, to the reality of the thing. However, you see, it relates to the reality of the thing. Al-Kain, and therefore, toifes, it relates to Davar Gashmi. Why? That doesn't stop at that. Riyah, being that, and this is what our challenge is, being that therein is when you grasp the mahus, the reality of it. When does the table become a real table? When it stands alone in the world. If it has the function of a table and you can hold it up, this is not a mahus.
So we're saying Riyah grasps that what is real. What kind of creation is real? That which is a Davar Gashmi?
In the world, it's Davar Gashmi. That's right. When the Keil Riyah comes B'Kelim Sholahem, that's when the Keil Riyah B'Kelim, not the Etzem Keil Riyah. B'Kelim Sholahem, in the Kelim, then it has to be Davar Gashmi. Riyah in the Koach Nefesh is a completely different thing. You can talk to a person, just, oh, I see. That's also, it's valid sight. And I just said many times, when you say, I see, this is beyond the words that were given to you. You see it as a truth interception. I hear you means I understand what you're saying. I see means I agree with you, because you told me the truth. It's a completely different experience. Okay, time is up. Just want to point out this one little thing. It's a major thing. If you hit your hand on the table and it hurts you, you're convinced that there is a table, there is something there. How is this compared to seeing it?
No comparison.
No comparison. Okay. There's no comparison. Please give me the difference.
When it hits you, it relates on how you were affected. But when you see it from its truth.
From its truth. Exactly right. This tells us another important insight. I'll step off for a second to point this out. So many times I said, "Oh, I was at a wedding and it was beautiful. And I had a 5-course dinner, and I enjoyed the dinner immensely." Right? So I asked, "Why do you have to go to the wedding? And why don't you order a 5-course dinner and serve it for yourself at your dinette table, and you'll have the same dinner?" And we all recognize that this is, unless somebody is agreeing, everybody agrees that this is not the same thing. Is that universally agreed? What's the difference? It's an interesting thing. That which I serve to myself is not real. That which is being given to me, that's real. Why? Now what's given to me from a broader perspective, from the reality of the world itself gives it to me. This is what the Rambam says, please understand. Yesoid ha'eseres hamutachos, ne'ele she'yeshua motzu yirishim mamtzi kol nimtza. Ma'amitas yimotzi nimtza kol nimtzai. Why are all nimtzoim real? Because there's a mamtzi kol nimtza. Not real because I experienced them. They're real because there is a creator. This is the same meaning translated on a much lower level. Mehusam Dover is in Gashmi. Why is Mehusam Dover in Gashmi? Because Gashmi is what the world presents to you. You don't create Gashmi. The world presents you the Gashmi. I want to have a table in the world. The world says, "Okay, take this piece of wood and make a world, make a table." And this table continues to belong to the world, not to you. If it was only belong to you, if it's only real in your own mind, it's not a real table. When it's become a real table? When you have given it to the world, and the world says, "Hey, this is a table." That's means mehusam dover, and this is why mehusam dover is in Gashmi Davke, because in all the kochas HaNefesh, this is all from your nefesh. But Gashmi, when it is real in the world, it is real only if it comes from the Gashmis. If you have a drawing, a picture, perfect picture, it's still not reality in the world.
But the 5-course meal I also make.
Huh?
The 5-course meal I also make in the world. I see. I know it's a sense of difference, but the explanation I have differently.
Because the 5-course meal, the principle there is not the meal. The principle there is the respect and the spirit behind it.
But the chassan.
Yeah.
But it was at a different point because that was given to me.
Yeah.
This is made.
That's right, because that spirit exists only if it's given to me. If I have to serve it myself, I don't have that spirit.
But if my wife served me a meal, a 5-course meal in my house, I also wouldn't have the same. It wouldn't be the same as having it in a chasana.
It would not be the same as you serving yourself.
No, that's true. Different diets.
It's a different spirit.
The point is, that's right, everything is relative. The point is there is the reality before it is being translated in this particular function. That's when the function becomes real.
This particular gashmi is there.
And that's in the world there's one Gashmi.
Has to be both.
Yes.
Can be just words. Has to be formed to the table. Can be just 5-course meal. Has to be from.
That's right. That's the common. What is it represent? What is it sent for?
But here it says he's typhus davar gashmi. It doesn't say he's typhus a kalim. Or in other words, davar gashmi would seem to mean anything that's in
anything that's Gashmi is the Re'iyah identifies anything that Gashmi as real. Then you take this reality and make a table out of it. Fine. So you have a table in reality.
Okay. So Re'iyah is
This is a cup. It's not a table. But this cup enables me to drink water. What is the table for? Because it looks like a cup or because it is a cup? You understand the difference? The fact that it is a cup is not what it looks like. It's the material from which it is made. Let me try it out. All right. So we are finished with the 4th line. Wow.
No, third line.
No, 4th line. Niyosh was ever twisted am husu smiem tevez davar ruchim shozeh shehu inyan mitzias.